For topic 2, we're going to talk about different ways to represent a number. So please understand, first of all, that when a number is in that number format that is called something, we can also have numbers that are written out in words. So we're going to convert between those two, and then there's a third version that we're going to look at. So first of all, a number like 6,403,759, so 6, 403, 759, that is written in what we call standard form. That's just kind of that number format that we're accustomed to. I can take a number and take it from standard form and rewrite it in words, or I could take a number that's written out in words and convert it to its standard form. So that's one thing that we are going to do. Now, the third format is a little bit new, and the definition may not totally make sense, which sometimes happens. Like sometimes just the definition on its own, you're kind of like, what? But then when you see it in practice, it's not so bad. That's what this third one is. So expanded form is another way to write a number as a sum of each digit in the number with its place value attached. So we have standard form. That's just writing it out typically how we see it. And then we have expanded form. And then, of course, the written form, which that doesn't need a definition necessarily. Okay, so we will write numbers in 3 different ways: words, standard form, and expanded form. Okay, and know how to convert between the 3. So example 2 says rewrite each number as indicated. So we have this number sitting in front of us for part A. We want to write it in words. Okay, so what you do is you have to understand the period. So remember when we were talking about place value, we had this idea of a period. It's each group of 3 digits starting from the right, moving to the left. Well, let me show you the table. We've got 3 sets of numbers here. So we've got this group of 3 digits, the 759. Then there's a comma separate periods. Then we have 403, and then we have another comma. So we have 3 periods that we're looking at. If we go back to our chart, we have something in the millions period, the thousands period, and the ones period. Okay? So what you do is you look at each group of 3 numbers, and basically what you do is you say or you write that number as just a typical 3-digit number, and then you end it with the name of the period it's in. You do that starting from the left, and then you just keep rewriting until you get to the last period. And the last period, you just have to say that 3-digit number. You don't have to end with the name of the period. Okay, so let's split this up into periods. So we've got our first period, our second period, and then the last period. The first period just has the number 6 in it, so we just want to say 6. And then we want to follow that up with the name of the period. So 6 million. All right, that was the name of that third period. So 6 million, and then I like to throw in a comma. Now, the next period has the digits 403. So as a 3-digit number, we would just say that's 403. So I want to go ahead and write out 403. And then I want to state the name of that period. Well, that's in the thousands period, so it's 403,000. And then finally, the last period, we have the digit 759. As a 3-digit number, we would just say that's 759. And you can just end it right there. You don't have to say 759 ones. That's a little bit weird. So there you have it. We have 6,403,759. Okay. Now, the reverse is what we're going to do in part B. We're going to take a number that's written out in words, and we're going to convert it to its standard form. Okay. So what I like to do is I like to look for keywords that indicate we're dealing with a period. Also, periods are frequently separated by commas in words as well as just in numbers. So I see the word billion. That tells me I'm dealing with a billions period. I have million. I have thousand. And then remember the last period, you don't write out the name of the period, so you're just going to end with whatever that number is. Now, the very first period that you deal with, the biggest of the periods, it can have 1 digit, 2 digits, or 3 digits. So you need to allow up to 3 digits. Every period after that, you have to have exactly 3 digits. Okay. So I like to just sort of set the stage. So I know I'm dealing with billions, so I'm going to allow up to 3 digits. I know I'm dealing with millions. I'm going to allow exactly 3 digits. Thousands, I'm going to allow exactly 3 digits. And then the last ones period, exactly 3 digits. So all of the periods have to have exactly 3 digits except the first one on the left, the biggest part of the number. Okay. So this number is 43 billion. I need to understand that 43 is a 2-digit number. So I'm going to write 43 starting here. That means this extra digit just isn't a part of the number. We don't have a digit in the 100 billions place. Our biggest digit's in the 10 billions place. All right. Next up, I have 12. Well, I need to write 12 as a 3-digit number, and it has to be exactly 3 digits. So I would want to write that as 0, 1, 2. So if in a period you have a digit that's less, or a number that's less than 3 digits, you have to start with a 0 and then put your 2-digit number, or you start with 2 zeros and put your single-digit number. Okay, so we have 12. That's classically a 2-digit number. We need to start with a 0 and then write our 12 so that we have the full 3 digits that are required. Okay. Now we have 902,000. 902 we can write. That's 902. And then finally, we end with just plain old 58. Well, we have to have 3 digits for this last period. 58's only 2 digits. So just like before, we're going to start with a 0 and then end in 58. So that is 53 billion, 12,902,058. And then finally, we're going to go back to that number that we've seen a few times. We've got 6,403,759. We want to take each digit that is not a 0, so each non-digit number, and we want to write it. And we want to take that number and then include basically the place value of that number. So the 6 right here is in the millions place. I want to write this as 6 million. And then I'm going to put a plus sign. Okay. Now the next digit, the 4, is in the hundred thousands place. So I want to write it as 400,000 and then a plus sign. The third digit is just a 0. We don't have to include that. The next non-zero digit is a 3, and it's in the thousands place. So I want to write it as just 3,000. And then next up, we have a 7, which is in the hundreds place. So I want to write that as 700. The 5 is in the tens place, so I want to write that as basically 5 times 10, or 50. And then finally, the last digit, we just write it as is. It is 9. So if I were to take a calculator and take these numbers, or I could do this on paper, but if I were to add up these numbers, I would get 6,403,759. So if you want to see this in practice, let's go to the calculator. Do I have it up? I do. So we want to take 6 million, so that's 6, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, plus 400,000. And then we had that 0, we don't have to include it. Then we had 3,000. And then we had 700. And then 50. And then 9. And there you have it, 6,403,759. So if you are ever asked to write a number in expanded form, the best way to check to see if you are correct is add your expanded form up, and you better get the number that you started with. So this is expanded form. You don't do tons and tons with expanded form, but it's worth knowing that it exists and that it's something that could potentially come up. So that's it. That's writing numbers from words to standard form. That's writing numbers from standard form to words, and then from standard form to expanded form. So make sure you can do all 3 of these.